What's up? Today I'm going to be figuring out what my favorite album on this list is because I might do multiple parts of this. I missed a lot of albums on this bracket that I could have put on here. But today we're going to be figuring out what my favorite album on this bracket is. I'm gonna turn my mic up a little bit, oh, there we go, it's easier to hear me. Okay, starting off up here, also these album covers are pretty bad quality, I apologize for that. I just grabbed them right off of Album of the Year, because I just went through all my 90s and 80s and 100s and just grabbed albums I wanted to put on here. First, we have Oval's 94 Discount versus Tim Hecker's Virgin. This is one of the no-brainers. Actually, not really. I do enjoy Virgins a lot. That album is wonderful. It's one of the coolest albums I've ever heard, one of the best ambient albums I've ever heard. It's dark, it's guttural, but the 94 Discount sounds like way ahead of its time. Virgins came out in the 2010s, like 2010s to 2020s, somewhere around that time. 94 Discount came out in like 94, which is extremely ahead of its time. Pretty sure it was 94. It might be like 98 or something. I might be misremembering, but it's called 94 Discount. So I think it's 94. But that album is so ahead of its time. It sounds new and fresh every single time I listen to it. And it really doesn't ever get old. Virgins, I have to be in a specific mood to listen to. 94 Discount, I can really just pop on at any given time and be blown away, and I can enjoy the entire album like I had just heard it for the first time. So obviously, I think 94 Discount's going to be making it up in the bracket here. Next, this is a hard one. This one's a hard one. Zach Hill's Face Tat versus Hella's There's No 666 in Outer Space. See, the problem with these albums is that Zach Hill has something to do with them. One of them is just straight up Zach Hill. The other one is Zach Hill and a bunch of other artists and musicians. Face Tat, Face Tat, I have a CD of. I do not have a CD of There's No 666 in Outer Space. I have yet to find one, but I do have a copy of Face Tat. I love this album so much. I love this album to death. It is so fucking good. This is a lot more kind of... It feels like the time it was released around. Like, it still feels like that era of music. Back in the era where Zach Hill was literally working on, like, every single project imaginable. And then you have There's No 666 in Outer Space, which is basically the Hella album that had, like, vocals and, like, all these other instruments, and it's just, like, a huge, like, massive, just dynamic of sounds that are all coming together over Hella's already sporadic and absolutely insane guitars and drums, and then you have vocals, you have, like, saxophone and, like, brass instruments and, like, bass. That album is just, like, everything. It's a full band of Hella. But Face Tat is so DIY at the same time too, because There's No 666 sounds like a studio-made album. Face Tat sounds like Zach Hill whipped it up in, like, his fucking basement. It's a really hard decision to make, but I feel like in terms of replay value, I see myself coming back to Face Tat a lot more, so I'm gonna bring Face Tat up here, which is a really hard decision to make because this album's amazing. Next up, we have The Vision by Billion Dollar Mind and The Twits by Bar Italia. So here's the funny thing about these two albums. They are completely different sides of the spectrum in terms of what they sound like musically. The Vision is this really, really cool Plunderphonics kind of like vaporwave project that came out recently. And The Twits is like... Bar Italia sounds like Cocteau Twins made music in this like new kind of art pop era of music, I guess. It's a very, very interesting album, but the Billion Dollar Mind album that just came out recently has absolutely blown me away. But I feel like, in terms of the genre I like more, I think The Vision is going to be taking the cake for this one, because that album is just, it's insane to listen to. It's a really, really cool album. Next up, we have Twice by AOTY and I Lay Down My Life For You, Director's Cut by JPEG Mafia. The reason I put the Director's Cut in here is because I did like more songs off the Director's Cut than I did off of the original cut. But at the same time, I wanted to put it on there because it's like a new album, and also I can put it in the thumbnail and it will get clicks. But I'm not even going to lie. I wasn't a very big fan of I Lay Down My Life For You when it came out. The director's cut, though, did bring back my enjoyment for that album by adding, like, these newer mixes and kind of newer tracks. But AOTY's Twice, oh my god. That is an album that, if you have never heard it, go and listen to that shit as soon as you can. It is one of the coolest most like insane sounding albums, and it's so unknown too. Like, it not really too unknown, but it's like not a lot of people know about this album, and it is extremely good. There's so many sounds and so many little intricate noises and elements that go into this album that just make it so like huge and just so like all over the place, and at the same time being one of the coolest like smaller albums I've ever heard in a while. And with that being said, I think we know which one will be making it up here. AOTY's Twice, easily. Such a good album. If you have not heard it, like I said, please go check it out. It's extremely good. A very, very good album. Next up, we have One Word Extinguisher by Prefuse 73 and Rock Island by Palm. Okay, this is kind of a hard one. This one's kind of difficult. Rock Island is a really cool album. It sounds like if Black Midi collabed with Metronomy to make an album. And then One Word Extinguisher is just a huge album that has so many elements to it. I have a copy of One Word Extinguisher on CD here. But speaking of Rock Island, I have a big copy of Rock Island. I have a vinyl of this one. But One Word Extinguisher is a huge album with a bunch of tracks that never gets old. It's a really amazing project. I think this one is going to be going forward. Next up, we have Sorry I Left It This Way by Pullflower against Tape Number 1 by AOTY. AOTY Tape Number 1 is one of the best beat tapes I think I've ever heard. And Sorry I Left It This Way by Pullflower is just full of these really lush, but also like abrasive, kind of noisy, like little bits of like just this elegant music that kind of just flows around all over the place. It's a really good project. Another really small one too. That's also an album I would totally recommend, similar to the AOTY album I mentioned earlier. Tape Number 1 has started to die on me though because of Three Koopa Kings being like that TikTok sound. And a lot of the other songs in that thing, it's kind of one of those albums where you have to listen to it like every once in a couple months, and you can't really listen to it twice because once you do it's not as exciting as it was on first listen. Sorry I Left It This Way kind of has that same issue where you listen to it once and then you go back to listen to it again and you don't get like that same enjoyment. But the textures and sounds on Sorry I Left It This Way are way more like just I can listen to that thing and hear new things each time, but also not really hear much new things. I don't know how to describe that. Tape Number 1 just kind of sounds the same every time you listen to it. So that's why I think that Sorry I Left It This Way by Pullflower is going to be the one making its move up to the second spot here. Lamb's Anger by Mr. Wazo and The Glow Part 2 by The Microphones. Lamb's Anger is one of the most beautifully disorienting albums I've ever heard. Every song on that thing just sounds like it shouldn't be on there. It's extremely hard to listen to, but extremely fun to listen to at the same time. You can get through it and listen back and hear things you hadn't heard before. But at the same time, The Glow Part 2 is the same way. But I think one of the main things that is drawing me to The Glow Part 2 is that the whole album is kind of based around the area of the Pacific Northwest which Phil Evram made the album in, like Olympia and like Anacortes, which is where I am from, so it hits a lot more closer to home listening to The Glow Part 2 than listening to Lamb's Anger. Lamb's Anger is just kind of fun and silly. The Glow Part 2 is one of the most gut-wrenching pieces of music I've ever heard, and that's why it's taking its stand. It's going up. Akufen's My Way versus Mikachu and the Shapes Jewelry. This one is also really hard. My Way is one of the coolest pieces of house music as well as Plunderphonics music I've ever heard, and Jewelry is like the most random, like crazy, freaky album. It's really, really fun too. This one's really, really hard. I feel like Jewelry has better replay value than My Way, because My Way does kind of drag on a lot, but that's kind of why I enjoy it, because it's very repetitive and it just kind of goes over and over and over again. But Jewelry has so much to offer. I come back to that album very often, and I see myself enjoying it more and more as I listen to it. So I think I might have to go Jewelry on this one, which is really hard because I absolutely love My Way. I think I'm gonna go Jewelry because this one is so cool. It's got so many interesting noises, and it's kind of timeless. Alright, Replica versus Blank Banshee Zero. Both albums kind of in the same field of like their vaporwave origins and stuff, but I feel like Replica just did it so much better. Blank Banshee Zero is an amazing project, do not get me wrong. That album is wonderful, I love it to death, but Replica is genuinely one of the greatest pieces of music I've ever listened to in my life. This is kind of a no-brainer. I'm putting Replica above Blank Banshee Zero. By the Time I Get to Phoenix by Injury Reserve versus AOTY by Boards of Canada. I might get a lot of hate for this, or I might not. I think Boards of Canada easily tops By the Time I Get to Phoenix. But By the Time I Get to Phoenix is one of the coolest hip-hop albums I've ever fucking heard in my life. AOTY is just one of those albums I come back to, and every time I come back to it, I listen to it just on repeat for like an entire 3 weeks straight, and then I don't get sick of the album, I just forget to listen to it, and then it kind of just like goes back into like its little hiding corner, and then when I'm in the mood for it again, it comes out, and I just have it on repeat. By the Time I Get to Phoenix is one of those albums I listen to once or twice, love it, and then will just listen to like 1 or 2 songs off of that album, and kind of just like throw the rest of it like out the back door and just forget about the rest of the album, and then keep like those 2 tracks that I enjoyed listening to at that time. So I think AOTY as a whole album is definitely the one I end up seeing myself enjoying more. Echo 2K's E versus Girlfriend's Self-Titled. This is kind of a hard one, because these are both 10 out of 10 albums in my opinion. I love these albums both equally as much. I feel like, though, I ranked E as a 10 out of 10 pretty recently compared to Girlfriends, which I've had on my 10 out of 10 ranking for like 3 or 4 years now. It's been a while since I've had that one up there. And that one's just absolutely timeless. I still have to give E the time to like go back and listen to it after a couple years to see if I really enjoy coming back to it, which I have been seeing as of recently. I've been coming back to E a lot, and I do really like that album, but I feel like Girlfriends takes the cake on this one because that album is just fucking beautiful. Love What Survives by Mount Kimby versus Kid A by Radiohead. If you saw my video on my other account where I reviewed Love What Survives, you'll know that is my #1 favorite album of all time. But here's the kicker. That is no longer true. There's other albums I think are way better than this one. After giving that album as much time as I've given it, it does kind of get old now. I still would give it a 10. Like that's not changing. It's just that I don't like enjoy it as much as a 10. I honestly kind of might change it to be like a 9.5. It's an album I praised for so long, and now listening back to it, looking at it, I think there's a couple moments on there that I'm kind of just like, this could be removed. Kid A, though, is still a 10 out of 10 in my opinion. It's one of the greatest left turns in music history. It's a timeless album. I have to go with Kid A. It's easily the timeless album, and I'm sorry Love That Survives, but Kid A's got you beat on this one, unfortunately. This one I kind of just gave a freebie to the books because I love this Fuck Buttons album so much, Tarot Sport. But The Way Out, there's literally that's a no-brainer. The Way Out is one of the coolest fucking albums I've ever heard in my life. Tarot Sport it's also a long album. The tracks are long, but it's amazing. Don't take this as Tarot Sport being a bad album. Please listen to that album because it is extremely good. There's a lot to listen to there. It's got so many sounds, but The Way Out is just beautiful. Lackneck by Vervath versus Cerulean by Baths. Lackneck has one thing in the album that is causing it to be not a 10 out of 10. If you know what it is, then you know what it is. I'm not going to tell you what it is. Go listen to the album and you'll hear it when it happens. There's a reason why it's not a 10 out of 10. Cerulean, though, is a really, really beautiful album. It's got so much texture, so many noises. It hits you in the face all at once with every single song in the album. It's extremely good. But Lackneck is kind of a timeless album. Minus the song that I don't speak of. I think that if that song wasn't on Lackneck, this album would be fucking timeless. It is so good. It sounds so cool. It's like Plunderphonic's art pop. It's just so like textural at the same time though being not textural at all because it's just slowed in like Paul Stretch samples kind of. It's like taken from like these like classical compositions and it's all screwed around with and messed with to make really, really cool instrumentals. And then Vervath's voice on top of that is absolutely beautiful. He's got like a genuinely beautiful voice, and that being played over these really cool kind of classical glitched out samples is an extremely fun listening experience. So I'm gonna have to put Lackneck above Cerulean for this one, because that album is just really cool. Deep Dark Trench versus the Richard D. James album. Deep Dark Trench is an album I've loved for a while now. It is really fun to listen to. It tells a great story about 9/11, and it does it all with samples and a bunch of mishmashed audio. The Richard D. James album is good. It's got songs I really like on it. It's got 4, Finger Bib, Yellow Calx. There's a lot of great songs off of Richard D. James' album, but I see myself coming back to Deep Dark Trench almost like every single month about. That album is like one of my favorite albums to ever exist, like in the plunderphonic scene. Like I said, it's one that I come back to so often to the point where it's unhealthy for me to be coming back to this album. Also, it's just a really fun story to tell people when I open up my phone to show them what I'm playing, and they immediately see a Chris Chan drawing, so it's going up. Next up, we have Crystal Castle's self-titled and Oneohtrix Point Never's R+7. This one is extremely hard because Crystal Castle's self-titled I have been listening to, and my parents have proven this, since I was 5 years old. I have been listening to Crystal Castle since I was like a child, like literally a child. But R+7 is genuinely one of the coolest fucking albums I've ever heard. It's so good. I will say that R+7 is going to go above Crystal Castles here. Alright. We are down to these. We still have a lot to go through, but it should be pretty easy now that I've already kind of explained all the albums. Alright, 94 Discount versus Face Tat. This one's kind of hard. I love Face Tat. I love 94 Discount. In terms of replay value, they're both equally like replayable. I think that for this one though, I think that 94 Discount's just still it's so like, it just sounds so new. Like it's just like it's crazy how this album came out when it came out, because it does not sound like that at all. Face Tat, it does sound like the year it came out in. It doesn't really sound futuristic like 94 Discount does. Twice versus The Vision. I think this one's going to go to Twice. I genuinely think Twice is going to take the cake on that one. This album is jam-packed full of some of the most insane shit you'll ever hear. This one's like kind of similar to like Girl Talk stuff in a way. It's like if Girl Talk mixed with like Christ, that's kind of what you'll get with this album over here. This one though is just like, it's just full of crazy shit. One Word Extinguisher versus Sorry I Left This Way. This one's easily going to go to One Word Extinguisher because this album is very, very like high quality. It's got like that really nice sound to it. It flows really well. It doesn't kind of like go off track. Sorry I Left This Way is very DIY. It kind of like goes all over the place in some sections, so it's definitely, it's good. It's still really, really good album. Don't think of this as me being like negative against it. Just like comparing the two albums, One Word Extinguisher has it going on. The Glow Part 2 versus Jewelry. This is a hard one. This is a really hard one. I'm gonna make a lot of people mad saying this. I'm going to make a lot of people mad when I rank this one, and if you don't believe me, go and listen to Jewelry. Jewelry, I think, is a lot better than The Glow Part 2, because Jewelry, it does so much crazy shit that like you'll listen to the album and you'll just like sit back and sit there and just be like, what the fuck am I listening to? It's a really, really good album. It's a great one. It's a really good one. Replica versus Gio Gotti. There's no question here. It's Replica. Girlfriends versus Kid A. Also kind of a no-brainer. I do love Girlfriends, but I've been listening to Kid A lot longer than I've been listening to Girlfriends, and that album is timeless, so I'm putting it in front. The Way Out versus Lackneck. Here's where it gets hard, because I love both of these albums equally. And I feel like at any point, if I put Vervath back on this list, it's going to have the same flaw that it does every single time, and it's just that last track. It catches you off guard in a very bad way, and I think that's why The Way Out is going to be going in front of it. Oh, fuck. This one's hard as shit. Because Deep Dark Trench, I wouldn't say there's any specific song off of Deep Dark Trench that I love and I come back to all the time, unless maybe you're talking about like Falling or Forget, or maybe I don't know. Those are the two that I come back to, but it's the whole album. If I were to name my favorite song, I would say it's the whole album. Like you got like when you listen to you gotta listen to the album in full. It's amazing. R+7 though, there's songs on there that I would kind of skip, I guess. Like maybe Chrome Country. I think I'm not like huge on that song, but I also still love it. Americans is one of the greatest songs ever made, in my opinion. I love Americans, but I think the album about terrorism in America is honestly a lot better than R+7. I'm not even gonna lie with that one. Yeah, I think that Deep Dark Trench is gonna be winning that. It's a crazy pick, I know, over R+7. I mean, not too crazy because they're both of these artists are my two biggest inspirations in music like ever. So it's hard to do that, but I mean we already have Replica, so we might as well put the other OPN on the back burner and move another one up there to give Replica its kind of time to shine. Final stretch here, the final stretch. 94 Discount versus Twice. Oh my fucking god. Oh shit. I love Twice so much. It's a really good album, but 94 Discount. I feel like Twice is gonna be an album that's gonna sound timeless in the future. It's like fuck. It's like if you were to take 94 Discount and add shoegaze into it. That's kind of what it sounds like. I love that album. Wow, this is a hard one. This is a really fucking hard one already. I might have to give it to Twice. Cause 94 Discount, it kind of keeps that same sound throughout the entire album. Like you might not realize the tracks have changed until you check the song name. Twice is full of it's just jam-packed full of really cool shit. I'm gonna go with Twice. I'm actually gonna go with Twice here. I think this album is a really, really good one. This is a really great album. One More Extinguisher versus Jewelry. One More Extinguisher, you've made it far, but I think I'm gonna cut you off here with Jewelry. Jewelry is just so fun. It's got the same thing that that Twice has with it, where it's just like full of really cool shit. Replica versus Kid A. Again, it's kind of a no-brainer. The Way Out versus Deep Dark Trench. I gotta go The Way Out. That album is really good. This one has the same thing that Deep Dark Trench does, where I can't name my favorite song off of it because the whole album is like my favorite song technically. So it's kind of, yeah. I mean, it's got that for it. All right, the final four. The final four. We have Twice by Audrey, Replica by One Tricks Point Never, Jewelry by Mikachu and the Shapes, and The Way Out by The Books. Between these two, between Jewelry and Twice, I think, oh my god, I think I gotta give it to Jewelry. I'm gonna give this one to Jewelry. I really think Jewelry is a beautiful album. It's so fun. It's so cool. It's amazing. It's a fucking beautiful album. I love it so much. And between Replica and The Way Out, oh shit. Oh, this is fucking hard. Oh my god. Replica's like and they're both albums that use sampling in such a great way. Okay, so Replica takes samples from advertisements and like TV shows. The Way Out takes samples from like cassette tapes that they found at thrift stores that kids recorded their own voices into. Oh, it's just The Way Out. Oh my god, it's so hard. This is a really tough decision. Oh my days. I wish I could put them both and just have them as one win, but I can't. I gotta choose one. Fuck! This is difficult, because this is gonna, like, fucking cement my opinion between these two albums. Oh my god, I love OPM, though. One of my favorite artists of all time. But The Way Out as an album, though. The Way Out as an album, though. It's so fucking good. I'm gonna give it to The Way Out. I'm gonna give it to The Way Out. I talk so much about how I love Replica, but at the end of the day, the genre mixing of The Way Out is genuinely one of the coolest things I've ever really heard. Now to the final two here. We have Jewelry by Mikachu and the Shapes and The Way Out by the Books. These albums like clash so well too. Oh my god. I'm giving it to The Way Out. You win. You win, Way Out. You win the bracket. There it is. I just realized I could have probably copied and pasted the album covers instead of fucking moving them, because now you can't tell what was where. And that's the bracket. That's the bracket, my friends. The Way Out won that one. There's a lot of good music on here too. Cool. I think that's a good decision. That's the bracket. Hope you guys enjoyed that. If you want to see me do another one, if you want to give me albums to put on the bracket too, that'll be cool. I might do like ask you in the polls thing, what's your favorite album covers of all time? What's in 10 out of 10 song by a 0 out of 10 artist, and I'll go listen to them. I don't know. That might be fun. Might be fun to do that. All right, that's gonna be it. See you guys later.